Hi, my name is Andres Belton, and I'm going to talk about renewable energy and its effects politically and socially. I first interview Albin Gasiewski, who's an energy engineer at the School of Engineering at the University of Colorado Boulder. I want to go ahead and start off this podcast by introducing Mr. Gasiewski and his definition for renewable energy.
So my name's Professor Albin Gasiewski, and I teach electrical engineering here at the University of Colorado. I'm in the Department of Electrical and Computer and Energy Engineering. Sustainable energy is harvesting energy for all of our needs in a way where we'll be able to harvest that energy for the foreseeable future. And by the foreseeable future, we don't just mean a year or two, or even 100 years, or even 1,000 years. We mean for the foreseeable future. Those are what we call sustainable energy sources, when we can continuously harvest them in some way or generate them in some way and never have to deplete any of the finite resources that we have.
I asked Dr. Gasiewski whether if the transition from renewable energy from the burning of fossil fuels would have any social effect, and would that social effect have any merit? And he responded,
It definitely will. And transitioning to it is where the impact actually occurs. Society thrives by people doing things for each other, serving each other in various ways. Doctors helping patients, teachers teaching students, policemen keeping us safe, etc. And there's a huge segment of our economy that thrives by people producing fuels for us, producing either coal or natural gas or oil or the various other types of fuels that might be more finite, uranium to some extent, fissionable materials. And these people have built their lives around the development of these fuels, thinking that we could continue to go on finding them and burning them without consequences. And a lot of this thinking set in over many, many years. It's not as if it just occurred yesterday. This is thinking that goes back to the beginnings of the industrial era, beginnings of not the last century, but the previous century, in the 1800s. And so we have it ingrained in society that our energy sources are of these finite type: coal, oil, natural gas, and again, fissionable materials to some extent. But those aren't sustainable. And so what we're really trying to do here is take social norms and economic modes that have been practiced for centuries, and within a very short period of time, because we're learning very quickly what these sources are doing to our environment, in a very short period of time, change the thinking and change the economic mode. That's a tough order, tall order to do.
I proceeded to ask Dr. Gasiewski about the political aspect of transferring over from fossil fuels to renewable energy, and whether if this transition has been restrained or slowed down from certain political and financial agendas.
Well, first of all, it does take a lot of effort to completely switch over to renewables. Even if you had what you call the physical infrastructure in the solar panels, in the wind energy devices, in the wave energy devices, and, for example, in the generation of oil, burnable oil via algae, even if all that infrastructure could be built rather in short order, there still is a lot of what you'd call resistance to moving to this new kind of an economy, because it does upset old economic models. there are, of course, many, many people whose retirements and whose livings are based upon right now the continued extraction of fuels. And changing that model so that those people don't necessarily suffer through the process, but can more easily get on this new bandwagon, if you want to call it, of generating renewables, that won't happen overnight. And so, as a result, there's understandably a political resistance. More and more, though, we're very clearly seeing the scientific effects of the burning of carbon and the production of CO2. These effects are starting to manifest themselves as more extreme weather. It is very clear that these effects manifest themselves as a warming in the Arctic that's reducing the sea ice coverage of the Arctic, and also a warming that's reducing the number of glaciers around the globe. So the scientific effects are very clear to see, yet people have a very tough time sometimes accepting the notion that they have to make changes, especially when they've been doing things the same way for a long time.
I wanted to get another view on this particular subject, especially someone that is from a different generation, a generation that's closer to my age. Because of social parameters, people who are born in different generations generally think differently due to what they have been taught growing up and due to social norms that surrounded them when they were growing up or when they are growing up. So I found this young lady who's named Georgia.
Yeah, my name is Georgia Roden, and I work for the Environmental Justice section of the Environmental Center.
Georgia works with an environmental center which also connects with social issues in parallel with environmental issues. So I wanted her to directly talk about that correlation.
Yeah, I think it's impossible to talk about any energy issues without understanding the social distribution of resources and energy, and that they're very interconnected, so you kind of have to understand both to get the full picture.
I want to go ahead and thank both Dr. Gasiewski and Georgia for participating within this podcast and talking about the issues behind renewable energy and the burning of fossil fuels. Thank you for listening.